If there's one truth I've learned after decades of studying success, failure, poverty, and power, it is this: you will believe anything you repeat. It doesn't matter whether it's true. It doesn't matter if it serves you. It doesn't matter where it came from. If it is repeated long enough with enough emotion, your subconscious mind will absorb it and begin to live it out. And that should terrify you, because it means belief is not sacred. It's programmable. And right now, without knowing it, you are programming something. Every time you say, "I can't," every time you think that's not for someone like me, every time you hear the voice that says you are not ready and you listen to it, you're writing code into your subconscious mind. That code becomes identity. That identity becomes emotion, and emotion becomes behavior. And once behavior sets in, you'll call it reality, but it isn't reality. It's repetition. That's why I tell you, faith is not a gift, it's a skill, and you build it the same way. You built your fears word by word, thought by thought, until your inner world either becomes your prison or your power. Most people don't believe in themselves, not because they're weak, but because they've repeated weakness to themselves for so long. They no longer recognize it as programming. They call it personality. They call it being realistic, but it's not that, it's just suggestion repeated so many times. The mind accepted it as law. And here's the truth: your mind does not care whether a suggestion helps you or harms you. It only cares whether it's repeated. That's the law of autosuggestion, and it's always working whether you're aware of it or not. So if you don't take control of the suggestions you feed your mind, they will be chosen for you by your environment, by your fears, by your past, by the people who didn't believe in themselves and taught you not to believe in you either. But you can change that, not by begging, not by waiting, but by deliberately feeding your mind the truth until it becomes louder than the lie. I. And if you repeat the right message long enough, not just with your mouth, but with your emotion, your mind will begin to believe it. That's not hope. That's neurology. That's vibration. That's faith, installed, the most powerful force. Shaping your life is not your talent. It's not your education. It's not even your environment. It is the programming of your subconscious mind. And here's what most people will never tell you: your subconscious does not care if something is true. It only cares if it is repeated. It does not analyze. It does not argue. It does not verify. It receives. And the moment it receives an idea with enough repetition and emotional energy, it accepts it as fact. Not because it's correct, but because it's familiar. Familiarity is the only evidence your subconscious requires. That's why a lie repeated often enough becomes belief. That's why fear that started with a whisper becomes a wall. That's why people live their entire lives believing they are broken, not because they are, but because someone told them once and they kept repeating it inside your subconscious mind. Is like fertile soil. It will grow anything. It doesn't ask whether the seed will nourish you or poison you. It only asks, is this what you're planting? And every time you think a thought with emotional charge, you're planting it. Every time you say the same thing to yourself, you're watering it. And the longer it stays in the soil of your mind, the stronger the roots become until it grows into identity. And once you believe something about yourself, you don't need facts to keep it alive. You just need the habit of repeating it. That's why most people never change. They've never interrupted the suggestions that built their beliefs in the first place. They've never questioned the voice in their head that says, "You are not good enough. People like you don't succeed. It's too late for you. You don't deserve more." And here's the trap: you can live your entire life inside those beliefs and never once realized they were programmed into you by repetition, not truth. You were born with nothing but potential. Every limit that followed was installed through repetition, through language, through emotional experiences that repeated the same message until your mind said, "This must be who I am." But it wasn't who you were. It was who you were taught to be. That is the power of autosuggestion, and most people use it against themselves without even realizing it. Every time you say, "I can't," your mind listens. Every time you say, "That's just who I am," your mind records it. Every time you accept someone else's version of your limits, your subconscious makes it your own. And this isn't just philosophy. This is how you've been shaping your reality since the beginning. So the only question is this: are you programming your mind, or is something else doing it for you? Because your subconscious is not your enemy, but it is your servant. And if you don't take the time to direct it, it will serve whatever voice has spoken the longest and the loudest. It will serve fear. It will serve memory. It will serve the doubts of others. Or it will serve you if you give it new instructions, and those instructions, they are built with repetition. If you understand that your subconscious mind accepts what is repeated, and if you understand that your life is a mirror of your beliefs, then the next question is simple. How do you change the program? How do you install belief where fear once lived? The answer is autosuggestion, the deliberate. Daily use of words, emotion, and repetition to rewire your identity. Autosuggestion is not wishful thinking. It is not blind affirmation. It is strategic spiritual engineering. You're building a new belief system, not by waiting for proof, but by feeding the belief until your subconscious accepts it as fact. And here's how you do it. Step 1, decide exactly what you want to believe. Not a vague hope. Not, I want to feel better. You must define the new belief with absolute clarity. I am divinely guided in everything I do. I'm capable of building a life of purpose and peace. I attract opportunities that align with my mission. I am free from fear and led by faith. These are not just phrases, they are commands, spiritual blueprints you'll submit to the subconscious mind daily. Step 2, repeat it out loud with emotion. Words alone won't penetrate the subconscious. They must be felt. That means saying your belief out loud when you wake up and before you sleep with conviction. You don't have to believe it yet, but you do have to say it like someone who is becoming it, because the subconscious responds to repetition and vibration, and your tone, your breath, your energy, that is your vibration. Each time you repeat it, you are carving a groove into the mind, and eventually that groove becomes a path, and that path becomes a belief, and that belief begins to shape reality around it. You're not lying to yourself. You're writing a new truth before the world catches up. Step 3, starve the old belief. You cannot build faith while feeding fear. You cannot install worth while repeating powerlessness. Every time you hear the old voice, the one that says you're not enough, people like you don't succeed, it's too late for you, you interrupt it. Not with force, but with your new program. You say, that's not my story anymore. And you repeat the truth you've chosen out loud, calmly, with authority. You don't argue with the old belief, you replace it. Step 4, stay consistent. Even when you feel no change, this is where most people quit. They say it for a week, then nothing feels different, and they assume it doesn't work. But they forget the old belief was installed. Through years of repetition, it was reinforced through trauma experience, repetition, and agreement. So of course it takes time to override it. But you're not asking for a miracle. You're following a law. The law says what is repeated with emotion becomes belief. What is believed deeply enough becomes reality. What becomes reality started with repetition. So you repeat and you keep repeating, not because you're desperate, but because you're now in control of the signal your subconscious is listening, not to your doubt, but to your discipline. And eventually it will believe you because that's what it was designed to do. Most people misunderstand faith. They treat it like a weather pattern, something that either arrives or doesn't. They say things like, I'm just trying to have more faith. I wish I could believe in myself. I don't feel strong enough to trust. But faith is not a feeling. It's not a mood. It's not a gift handed out to the lucky few. Faith is a system, and like every system, it can be built or ignored. You don't need to feel inspired to have faith. You don't need to be fearless. To act in alignment, you need structure. You need understanding. You need to know the components of faith so you can construct it just like a house, a bridge, a business, or a belief. So let me show you the system. 1. Faith begins with repetition. Your mind does not develop belief from facts alone. It develops belief from frequency. That's why you must speak the truth before you see it. You repeat the thought. You visualize the outcome. You flood the subconscious mind with the same message until it stops rejecting it and begins accepting it as the new baseline. Every repetition is a brick. You are building belief brick by brick too. Faith is shaped by emotion. Words without feeling are weak. But when you speak with emotion, even if you don't fully believe yet, your subconscious listens. It listens to vibration, it listens to your state. That's why it's critical that your auto-suggestions on our robotic, you must speak them with breath, conviction, intention, not to impress anyone, but to create resonance within yourself. The stronger the emotion behind the repetition, the deeper the programming. 3. Faith is activated by decision. You do not wait for belief to take action. You act from the seed of belief, and with every step you take, that seed grows. Faith grows by usage, just like a muscle. It strengthens underweight, so you don't say, "I'll act when I feel sure." You say, "I act because this is who I'm becoming." And the more you live as if it's already true, the faster it becomes true, because action reinforces suggestion, and suggestion reinforces belief, and belief reinforces reality. That's the system. 4. Faith is protected by environment. You cannot install new beliefs while surrounding yourself with voices that speak doubt, fear, and limitation. Every conversation is a suggestion. Every environment carries frequency. If you are reprogramming your mind, you must guard it like a sacred temple. That doesn't mean you become isolated. It means you become intentional. You choose what you listen to. You decide what voices get airtime in your mind. You eliminate what weakens the new pattern you're installing. Because if you don't guard the gate, the old messages return. And no matter how hard you work, if the system isn't protected, it will be overrun. 5. Faith is stabilized by practice. Once faith begins to form, you must use it daily. You speak the truth even when fear shows up. You hold the vision even when evidence is lacking. You return to your program morning, night, in between. Faith is not a peak you reach. It is a path you walk, and the more you walk it, the less power fear has. Fear doesn't disappear, but it becomes background noise. It stops controlling your pace, because now faith is louder. Faith is a system, and now you know how to build it. So the question is, no longer do I have enough faith. The question is, am I working the system every day? If the answer is yes, then the outcome is already shifting. You won't need to force belief. You'll become belief, and from that foundation, you'll create whatever matches it. Let me say something now that most people will not want to hear, but it must be said. You are always being programmed. The only question is by whom. If you do not deliberately feed your mind with suggestion, with vision, with belief, with clarity, then the world around you will do it for you. And the world is not neutral. The world is loud. The world is crowded. The world is filled with fear, limitation, distraction, doubt, and passivity. And if you do not take control of what enters your mind, your subconscious will absorb that noise and treat it like truth that is the greatest danger. Not that your beliefs are wrong, but that they were never yours to begin with. They were handed to you, installed without consent, repeated so often you forgot to question them. You're not meant to succeed. Be realistic. Don't want too much. People like you don't get ahead. It's too risky. That dream is for someone else. Where did those voices come from? Were they born in you, or were they downloaded from parents who never broke free, teachers who played it safe, friends who feared rejection, cultures that worship conformity, and systems that profit from your limitation? This is what I call drifting. Drifting is the slow, invisible death of purpose. It happens when you stop choosing your thoughts and start reacting to whatever the world throws at you. It happens when your mind becomes passive, when the voice inside is no longer your own, when suggestion comes not from clarity, but from noise. And once you begin drifting, you enter what I call hypnotic rhythm. It's a spiritual autopilot. And once it locks in, you begin to live by default, not by design. You wake up and go through motions. You no longer question your thoughts. You accept mediocrity as normal. You bury desire under duty. You silence vision for survival, and you don't even know it's happening because the mind is programmable. But it is also lazy. When left alone, it will default to the most repeated signal, and most of the world is broadcasting fear. So if you're not programming your mind with intention, you are being programmed by accident. And let me tell you, accidental programming never leads to greatness. It never leads to purpose. It never leads to the full expression of what you were born to become. That only happens when you interrupt the noise and begin to reprogram your mind from the inside out daily, deliberately, decisively. If you don't give your subconscious clear instruction, it will follow someone else's. And if that someone else doesn't believe in your future, neither will you. But the moment you realize this, the moment you really see it, you can take your power back. You can stop the drift. You can rewrite the code. And you can begin to feed your mind a new truth, so repeatedly and so precisely that the old beliefs no longer have room to survive. That is your responsibility, because no one is coming to reprogram your mind for you. It is yours, and only you can reclaim it. Aim. Let me ask you a question you probably never considered. What future are your words planting right now? Because every word you speak is a seed, and those seeds grow whether you meant them to or not. The subconscious mind hears everything you say, not just the speeches, not just the affirmations, not just the moments you're trying to be positive. It hears the casual remarks, the quiet self-criticism, the jokes you make at your own expense, and it records all of it. Your future is being shaped by the phrases you repeat without even noticing. When you say, "I'm just not good with people. I've never been lucky. I'm so tired all the time. This always happens to me. I could never do something like that." Your subconscious listens. It does not question. It does not argue. It simply accepts. And the more you repeat those words, the more it reshapes your identity to match them, because your subconscious is not loyal to your potential. It is loyal to your programming, and the program is written in the language you use every single day. You may not mean it. You may be joking. You may be venting. But the subconscious doesn't know the difference. It only knows the vibration. And vibration is determined by repetition and emotion. The words you speak become the thoughts you believe. The thoughts you believe become the actions you take. The actions you take become the results you experience, and the results you experience confirm the words you spoke. It becomes a cycle, and most people spend their lives trapped in that cycle without ever realizing they built it with their own tongue. You are not unlucky. You're undisciplined in your speech. You're not cursed. You've been careless with your words. You are not broken. You've just rehearsed a story that doesn't serve you, and the good news is you can change that story, not in theory, not in fantasy, but in practice. You change it by changing your language deliberately, repeatedly. Even when it feels awkward, even when the old phrases try to slip, out of your mouth you begin replacing "I can't" with "I am learning." "I am not" with "I'm becoming." "This is hard" with "This is training me." You catch yourself, you redirect. You speak the new code until your mind begins to believe it. And when it believes it, it behaves like it. And when it behaves like it, your world begins to reflect it. That's how powerful your words are. You're not speaking to impress others. You're speaking to instruct your subconscious. Every sentence is a set of instructions. Every phrase is a blueprint. Every declaration is a command. You are not just describing your life. You are designing it with your own voice. So if you don't like what you're seeing, start by listening to what you're saying, because your words are not just sound. They are vibration. They are programming. They are power. And once you master that power, you won't just speak differently. You'll live differently. You've been told that doubt is natural, that it's just part of life, that it's something you have to manage or overcome, like a chronic condition. But that's not true. Doubt is not natural. Doubt is programmed. It is installed, conditioned, rehearsed, repeated, until it becomes reflex. And if it was programmed in, it can be programmed out. Doubt isn't something you're born with. You weren't doubting your worth as a child. You weren't born believing you couldn't succeed, that you weren't enough, that your future was limited. Those beliefs were handed to you by repetition, by fear, by the people around you who never broke free and unconsciously passed their limitations on to you. They didn't mean to, but they did. And now if you're not careful, you'll keep repeating that same pattern inside your own mind until your life begins to match their ceiling. That's how doubt spreads. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's quiet. Repetition. One fearful thought spoken often enough until it becomes a belief. And once it becomes a belief, you'll see the world through it. You'll expect failure. You'll prepare for rejection. You'll back away from opportunity before it even arrives. Not because you're weak, but because doubt has become your software. But here's the truth. Hill taught, and most never understood, your mind is not a stone, it is clay. And clay can be reshaped the same way. You program doubt. You can program confidence the same way you built fear. You can build faith. Doubt was written by repetition. So rewrite it. Catch the phrases, notice the voice, and every time it speaks, respond not with anger, not with shame, but with authority. Speak your truth, speak your vision, speak the new belief you're choosing, even if your voice shakes, even if your mind resists, even if it feels foreign at first, because repetition doesn't care how you feel. It cares whether you continue. And the moment you continue, you begin to change the pattern day by day, phrase by phrase, until the old groove wears down and the new one takes shape. That's how reprogramming works. You are not fighting doubt. You are starving it. You are replacing it. You are overriding it with something truer, stronger, and deliberately chosen, because if doubt was installed without your permission, faith must be installed with your participation. And once that new program takes root, you will no longer hesitate. You will no longer shrink. You will no longer live at half your power because of something someone else once said. You'll be free. And not because the doubt disappeared, but because you replaced it with something louder. Everything you've ever believed was built by repetition, and everything you will become will be built the same way. Repetition is not weakness. Repetition is power. Look around you. The strongest structures in the world are not built by inspiration. They're built by pattern, by routine, by laying the same bricks with the same hands in the same direction until something unshakable is formed, and your mind is no different. You will never become strong by inspiration alone. You'll become strong by what you repeat, what you feed, what you affirm, what you return to when no one is watching. Because repetition is how the subconscious learns, and the subconscious is what controls your behavior, and your behavior is what creates your results. This is the system, and it works at every time. The only question is, are you using it on purpose or by accident? Most people repeat the wrong things, excuses, limitations, fears, memories of failure, stories of unworthiness, and then they wonder why nothing changes. But the law of mind is not personal. It does not reward truth. It rewards repetition. Whatever is repeated becomes real, not because it is fact, but because it is familiar. And what is familiar becomes belief. And belief shapes everything. So if you want to change your reality, you must change what your mind hears most. You must become deliberate in what you say to yourself, what you visualize, what you declare, not once, not when you feel motivated, but every single day. That is how faith is built. That is how confidence is installed. That is how you go from being a victim of old programming to a master of new creation. You don't need new gifts. You need a new groove. And that groove is created with repetition. Repeat the truth. Repeat the vision. Repeat the words that reflect who you are becoming. Speak them. Feel them. Carry them until they settle so deep your subconscious accepts them as law, because once the mind believes it, it begins to create it. And that's when your outer world starts to reflect your inner declaration. Not by chance, not by magic, but by law, you will believe anything you repeat. So choose what you repeat, because in doing so, you are choosing your future.